Hi guys, so today we're on our way to the Cape Coast Castle. I'm excited to go see it. What makes the Cape Coast Castle so special?
Actually, you have to find it yourself.
I have to find it myself?
Yes,
yeah. Alright, Nana, do you have anything to say about the Cape Coast Castle? I
got nothing to say.
Oh, nothing to say?
Yeah.
Why not? You're usually the talkative person.
Yeah, because they owe me, so I won't say anything.
Alright guys, so see you in there. Bye. To go listen to the tour guide, guys. All right. I know it's a lot of people. And over here you can see some of the proms they use. This is like the natural stage of it. It's rusting, but everything here is original, like what they really used.
I'm talking about Cape Coast Castle. From day one, it was constructed for the transatlantic slave trade. They built it around the 1700s, when it was quite lucrative to ship enslaved Africans from here to the New World, rather than to ship gold to Europe. And though we say the British constructed it, but the main labor were Africans. Though the Europeans brought in some few masons, carpenters, engineers, or artisans. So as a matter of fact, we constructed our own dungeons. And historically, this is the third castle the Europeans constructed along the coast of Ghana. It is estimated that along the coast of West Africa, we had about 60. And out of that 60, Ghana had more than 50. So Ghana had more than 90% of all the forts and castles West Africa had. And some of us will wonder why Ghana had that much. And we had that much because of gold. Gold attracted the Europeans to this part of the world. So yes, the Europeans came here around the 15th century, but at some point in time, the demand for gold in Europe shifted to the demand for labor. People to work on the plantation farms, people to work on the mines, the silver mines, gold mines, and all that in North America, South America, the Caribbean, or the West Indies. Unfortunately, Africans were seen as the best candidate because it was said that the African was much stronger or robust, or the African could resist the weather in South America. So at some point in time, all the forts and castles along the coast of Ghana were now turned into slave castles or slave forts. Today, my emphasis will be on the Atlantic slave trade. We shall visit the dungeons, the condemned cells, the Palaver Hall. We'll go through the door of no return. Surely we shall not return. And one more thing before we move into the male dungeons. See, right above the male dungeon was a church. The Anglican Church, or the Church of England. So, you know, Jesus was worshipped. Hallelujah was sung out there. People died and screamed underneath where God was worshipped, or Jesus was worshipped. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, just stand wherever you are now. I'll turn off the light. I'll turn off this bulb for some few seconds. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, that was the situation in the dungeon. When people were here, they didn't have anything like this artificial light. The holes to your right, after the three holes you see there, were the only source of light and air for about 200 people in that space. Okay, so let me continue. So that was the only source of light and air in this room. Total, we have 5 rooms. This is room number 1. We have 4 extra rooms behind. A room that accommodates about 100 to 200 people. And they could live here from 1 month to 3 months. So that was the maximum place they could spend here, 3 months. It will all depend on how early or how late the ships arrive from Europe or from America or from South America or the West Indies. So you have to stay here and wait. So first of all, the dungeon needs to be filled up so that the ships will be filled up too. They will do everything there. So for example, like wherever you find yourself, you see I think we are less than 30. You see how we've occupied this space. So you can imagine keeping about 100 or more in this room. And at the end of the day, you had to go to toilet here, you had to urinate, you had to sleep, you had to eat, you had to drink water. So as a matter of fact, they slept on their feces and urine for more than a century. Because this didn't continue here for that long. So when you look carefully on the floor, you find gutters. That was the only way toilet and urine could run out of there to the ocean. And also, it got to a point, these gutters could not move the feces and urine out because these gutters were too tiny. So whatever they left here got mixed up and covered the entire floor to about this level. So to about this level, the entire floor here was filled up. 1974, we excavated. We removed the feces and everything they left. After removing it, we found the original floor like this and the gutters. So if you had been here earlier than 1974, perhaps you might have actually seen to whatever I'm talking about here. Many of them died. The estimation was about 1/3 of them did not survive. Cholera killed many of them, and you had nothing like medication when you were sick. You died, either your body was thrown into the sea, or a mass burial was conducted for them somewhere in town. They were given water and food once or twice every day, but the food and water was nothing good to write home about. That is how come many of them died through cholera. I just want to show you something practical concerning the floor. You realize that the way this floor looks is a bit different from the first one. It is because out of the 5 rooms, we only excavated 1. So these floors we've not excavated. So as a matter of fact, we are standing on top of everything they left here over the century. So this is a combination of human feces, urine, vomit, blood, saliva, tears, everything they left over the centuries. We are standing right on top of it. We intentionally left these ones here. Because if we should remove everything, then we don't have anything to tell when we take this to as people. So we have these ones for you to see. And above us was the Church of England. Above us was the Anglican Church. And again, to my right, they constructed a spy hole. So as the name implies, spy. Some of the soldiers would just come down, stand there and spy so that they could know whatever was going on without them even coming in. The transatlantic slave trade brought a lot of, racial sentiments, so many things. So yes, the church authorized this. And whatever monies the companies or the countries who participated made, the church equally made that sum. Yes. The enslaved Africans died. Their remains were thrown into the ocean. And the fish feed on them. But interestingly, this is the only Ghanaian or the only black man the Europeans buried among them. Right, the name is Philip Kwaku. Philip Kwaku was a native of Cape Coast. His parents were Cape Coasters, Ghanaians were here. At the age 11, he had a scholarship to England. He ended up at Oxford University, where he had his first degree in theology around 1765. And that same year, he was ordained as a priest. He became the first black man to become a priest for the Anglican Church. He returned to this place as a teacher, a missionary, and a reverend minister. So up there was a church. Earlier on, I pointed it to you, right? So Philip arrived at the peak of the slave trade, led an all-European congregation, whilst his fellow Africans were right underneath him in chains and in shackles. On records, he didn't say anything for the slave trade. He didn't say anything against it. He died around 1816 at the age 75. Also, you find guns or cannon. There are cannonballs behind you. These guns are all over this building. The British brought these guns to protect or to defend their investment from their fellow competitors. If the Dutch or the French try to attack, then they will shoot their guns against them. They can attack by sea, because in their ships they also had guns similar to this one. So you bombard yourself, whoever wins, you know. So if you're able to bombard this place to the extent that you can come in and fight them and drive them off, yes, you do that. Punishment room for women who resisted or revolted. See, over here, the enslaved Africans were taken through a lot of brutalities and torture. Somebody wished his will upon you. So now that person had to torture you physically and mentally. See, so people ask the question, why were they kept in dungeons? Why were they made to sleep on their own feces? It's psychological. More like they are preparing you for the task ahead. So that you know what they are trying to tell you, that you are nobody. I'm the force you have to recognize. And when they even got there, the brutalities and the torture were the conditions were even worse for women here. You could imagine a woman having a menstrual period without getting any clean or proper wash. And at the end of the day, you had to do it in your toilet, urine, vomit, blood, and saliva. You can imagine the diseases and infections women were exposed to within this space. And also don't forget those who were sexually assaulted or raped. Behind me, those holes were for light and ventilation. And at times, depending on the direction of the wind, when it rains, water do enter. So that was the situation. So, well, the transatlantic slave trade, it was one worse thing to the other. And the interesting thing is, a lot of us here on the African soil, on the African continent, don't even know about this. But also realize that the conditions of the slave ships was worse than the dungeon. So here, about 1/3 had survived. On the ships, it was about a half. Because on the ships, they were kept at the place we call the lower deck, where goods were supposed to be kept, because there was little or no ventilation. They had something like wooden planks where they were made to lie side by side each other. And records we learned that once in a while they would allow them to go to the upper deck, maybe stretch their legs a bit. But that was a time some of them tried to resist or escape. Some of them even preferred to jump off the water rather than to. So if the journey is about 2 months or 3 months, you were at the lower deck. You lied on your toilet, your feces, your urine. So let's say, if you are on the first plank, some people, and under the second plank was also some people. So meaning your toilet and urine and everything can be happening to you before it drops in the ocean. Yes. So these are some of the situations they endured on the ships before finally they got to America, Jamaica, Brazil, etc., where they were worked to death. Let me put it that way. We had a place we called the condemned cell, where people were suffocated to death for trying to escape rebellion. Don't worry, we shall visit the condemned cell. Now, they will bring them here in chains and in shackles. There were 2 doors. The first door was locked, the second door was locked. So if they were 10, 15, 20, 30, you were here without water, food, light, and air. So the last person in this cell would have to suffocate to death. If it would take about 5 or 6 days for the last person to die, they would wait.
Okay, they actually wanted them dead.
Exactly. Let's come on.
So terrible. So once you enter here, you know that.
Because when you come closer, your ship will get stuck, sink. So the ships will dock some few kilometers from here. They'll put them on boat, and gradually they will join the bigger ships from the side. So that's how come we are saying that when you go through that door, you will not return. But when you look up again, you will find another inscription that says Door of Return. Very symbolic, ladies and gentlemen. We had it in 1998. We had a festival by name Emancipation Day or Freedom Day. Slavery had existed in most of the civilizations we know. Ancient Rome, Babylon, the Greeks and all that. So what I want to derive is, before the Europeans came here, we even had knowledge of slavery. We had the domestic slavery or the indentured servitude. But the thing is, there's no way you can compare that to the transatlantic slave trade. I normally say it was the opposite of what we practiced. Because before the Europeans came, we were not fighting among ourselves with the aim of enslaving and using people on plantation farms, or changing people's identity, culture, language, religion and all that. No. Perhaps I want to become a greater force. I'm expanding my territory or my empire. I'll by means fight other tribes. But when I defeat them, I don't see them as slaves. I see them as vassal states. You serve me or you pay me taxes or tribute. Because at the end of the day, nobody will put chains and shackles on you. You are not branded and all that. Now, I could owe this gentleman some money I cannot pay. My children or my relatives could come and serve him till that debt is paid. That is the system we had here. Also, we didn't have anything like the prison system. So the prison system was new to Africa. Though among the Akans or among the Ghanaians, we had our rules. If you faulted, you could be punished. Like you commit murder and you were found guilty, you'll be killed also. Or you commit certain taboos, like you sleep with somebody's wife. If you're a girl and you don't perform puberty right and get pregnant, the girl and whoever got you pregnant were banished from the community, never to set foot there again. So these are some of the practices we had. Now, when the Portuguese came initially and explored South America, they were actually, conducting raids and kidnapping themselves. But when it got to a point where they needed them in that commercial quantity, the Europeans now relied on us to supply them with slaves. So now tribal wars and ethnic warfare intensified among us. We didn't have anything like a nation. So there was only tribal unity. So if I'm with tribe A and I'm selling tribe B to the Europeans, I don't care. Because I say they are not my people. But that disunity led to our downfall. Yes, because we became bad. The strong men and women we needed were all sold to the Europeans. They could now colonize us. So that is what we had here. Now I know somebody committed murder. Don't kill that person, sell that person to me. Don't banish them. So these are some of those. So at some point in time, Africans supplied Europeans with slaves.
Yes.
So here they were exchanged for European goods like mirror, blanket, things that did not make any economic sense in the future. And also colonization in Ghana. Colonization in Ghana started right here also. In our history books, there's something we call the Bond of 1844. So the Bond of 1844 was a treaty signed between the Fantis and the British when the Ashantis were invaded, when the Fantis needed protection from the British. The British brought their terms that accept me as your protector or ruler for 100 years. More like accept me as your ruler for 100 years and I'll protect you. So we signed our death warrant. So those who signed the bond became the British colony. Other areas, the Ashantis also struggled to quickly sign the bond. So at a point in time, the bond was signed by more than 8 areas. So that led Ghana into colonization. Because when Ghana was colonized, immediately Cape Coast was the capital city. This building was the seat of government for the British government. Before later, they took it to Akwah in 1877. Right, so let's see that. Ladies and gentlemen, the British governor lived here. So this was a governor's sitting room. So one person lived here. The governor lived here. This was the sitting room. He had about 20 windows. So this is the sitting room. And this is the bedroom. Let's see the bedroom. conscious, they had double exits. Because of an emergency, the governor will be sneaked out somewhere. So this is the governor's bedroom, and as I mentioned earlier on 19th March 1877, the capital was removed from Cape Coast to Akwah. Okay. So let's end the tour downstairs finally. Okay, so finally we have a plaque. We had this in 1992 on behalf of every Ghanaian. We had it in 92 when we first celebrated Pan-African Historical Festival. We shall call it Panafest. It says, in everlasting memory of the anguish of our ancestors, may those who died rest in peace. May those who return find their root. May humanity never again perpetrate such injustice against humanity. We the living vow to uphold it. So it is here to serve as a reminder of whatever we saw or whatever we experienced or however we felt today. That now your brother's business should be your business. That we should avoid tribalism. We should unite among ourselves. Because trust me, if we were united, there was no way Britain would have ever ruled Ghana. Because listen, for the British to subdue one tribe, to rule the Northern Territories, they found it very difficult because that tribe was beating them in battle. The Ashantis were beating the British in battle, to the extent that the British realized that alone they cannot defeat the Ashantis. So what do? I divide and rule. You know, I go to the enemies of the Ashantis and use them against the Ashantis. Right? So we should foster unity. And also let's do our very best to treat each other with fairness, justice, and equality. If that prevails, if that prevails, I guess the world would rather become a better place for all of us to live in, regardless of your race, your color, your gender, or your religion. So that is my short and simple message for you.
So we just toured the Cape Coast Castle and we learned a lot. Yep. So that's it for this vlog. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel.
Bye.